But what I'm noticing is there's a legacy thought, which is like the bifurcation of content and product in such a way where, you've got big studios who are like, I want the content rights. I want to get this on Netflix. I want to put this on my streamer. I want to put this on my BBC or whatever. Like, I want to buy the content. That's where I make my money. I don't care about the product at all. Right. And then the product guys are the licensing people. Right. So then if you're a brand, I'll give you the example that was given to us, like Bluey, right? Bluey sells their content to a streamer. I think it's on Disney Plus in the US. Bluey is like the biggest show on the planet right now, right? Like bar none. So they sell that. Disney Plus gets it. Where's the money for Disney Plus? Well, I got Bluey, so people are going to buy my Disney Plus subscriptions, but it's like, it's sort of this like the not tangibly direct thing. The product guys are just selling Bluey stuff. That's direct. Like I sell 1 million knapsacks, I get back X amount of money. Like it's very direct. So the bifurcation of those two things, I think, is a huge mistake. I think that some of the people we were talking to that are a little more forward thinking or experienced, the licensing folks that were at Licensing Expo, were like deep in the business. They're like, no, you need to, like, fewer people will bifurcate those things because a lot of the value now is going to lean more on the product side than the content side because content is abundant. Like content is everywhere. And I think that the content providers that exist today, like the streamers, are not providers of content, or they're curators of content, right? And there's a very different value proposition in how you curate a portfolio of content versus acquire as much content as possible from a monetary perspective, and then how the difference between those two things drives the product side very, very differently.
What I would do...
You said that last time.
The crazier metric.
Make sure you focus your time, energy, and effort.
9 months later, Trump.
Very spot for shooting.
I think we can take credit for having conviction.
Andrew said, he's like, I'm going to bring that up.
I was actually brought in
Developing famous penguin in the world.
Guys, big week this week. Popkins is going on Thursday. This is being recorded on the record on Tuesday, so May 27th, which is 2 days from the Popkins mint on Sui. However, you guys want to kind of announce it. I have Nick with me here. Also, other Andrew, the more important Andrew, as they call him these days.
Come on.
With us on the podcast. Guys, welcome back. It's our third one now. We did the first one, which was recorded on camera. Second one was in the office. Third one, we're back on camera. Fourth one's got to be back in the office. Otherwise, the pattern's broken, and I like pattern recognition. Gentlemen, how are we feeling for Thursday?
I'm excited for to be back in the office now. So now everything else is obsolete. No, we're fine. I'm excited for that too. Right? I'm excited for that.
That's right. That's right.
Enough.
I'm pumped, man. It's like it's been 3 years basically since we did like a real large scale mint. It's testing a lot of the grit of the team, especially the artists, because the mint is so insanely complicated, like on the art side of things and the tech side of things. We're also doing it on a new chain. There's so much involved, but like I think for us, we're so pumped to finally do a large scale expansion. We hadn't used that ammunition yet. I think a lot of the big projects had, and so this feels like our moment, and the vibes are hot. So super stoked about that.
Andrew, any feedback?
I'm excited. No, I'm pumped. I'm pumped because it's like, I think Nick's actually, keep in mind, I don't know how many people know this, but I joined the team like the day after they minted. I didn't even like officially join them yet, but I met with them the day after they minted on November 27th, 2022. So I wasn't here for the first mint. Yeah, I'm friends with the guys for a long time. I knew what was going on, but very different being sitting at home having a glass of wine versus being in the juice, you know? Being in the juice, I use this example all the time, which is like, it's from the service business, like, really Saturday night vibes, too many tables and lots of things to do.
It's the sauce.
Yeah, in the sauce. Okay. We're in Quebec here, but
the French call it the juice. Maybe that's why we talk it.
Yeah, we call it the juice.
Say it like that, yeah.
But we're in that period right now, which honestly sounds crazy, but I love it. Like it's high stress, but also everyone's rocking and rolling, and we're pumped for Thursday.
Right, guys,
Friday,
we're off the bat. I want to
thing.
get into like a philosophical conversation before we can get to the mint and kind of the nitty gritty of things. From both you guys, Will too, when he gets back. What's something you both believe in that you think most people would disagree with?
It takes time. It takes time to properly incubate IP, and I think in the space, I think oftentimes there's kind of a disconnect where like you need to feel like rewarded right away for collecting these NFTs and all that kind of stuff, but or like, you know, when can you guys do this? But it's I think you shouldn't race to go to the Walmarts. You shouldn't race to do certain moves that you think might not be the right play for your brand if you want that brand to have like a lot of longevity and social equity. So doing things right, I think, is something that we've always believed in. We've always believed in a quality approach, and sometimes that's swimming upriver.
One, that is probably the best question I've ever heard. And I'm going to bank that and use that in the future. It's really a good question.
I answered it about like Claynosaurz and Web3, but I feel like this was more like of a life question.
Nick is like, so let's talk about Israel. No. You're like, damn it, Nick. No politics. No. I think it's a really great question. Honestly, it's a great question in so many different places. I would say that what Nick said is semi-correct. Like most people won't agree. Most people will say like, especially business folks, like, oh, I'm the business guy. Often I have to tell these guys like, hey, like we need to not just incubate, we need to somehow figure out how we can monetize. Is it plushies? Is it this? Or we got to like manage the budget without monetization. I need to understand that so I can have a view to this from a financial planning perspective. And so that you have business guys, like whether you're Disney, Warner Brothers, or a smaller studio, you're going to have some sort of like pressure on that side. So it's controversial in many ways for that reason, what Nick is saying, because to build it well, I think people will agree. But pragmatically, no one would agree. No one does that in this business. I think from the Clayno perspective, that might be one of the most controversial things that we're doing. In the NFT space, controversially right now is the whole notion of like more NFTs. You're putting more supply into the ecosystem. Like, what are you doing? And I sincerely, wholeheartedly believe that is like a total incorrect perception of how NFTs should work and how you drive fandom, upstream into the collectibles. I think without belaboring the entire thesis, some very simple examples are effectively every big collector universe that exists today, from like sneakers to sports memorabilia to Pokemon and other trading card games. They've got the whole demand curve is covered, right? Like you've got people entering that brand at $1 price point and also people entering at $100,000 price point, right? And maybe not for sneakers where maybe it's 100 to the same, but you get what, there's accessible price points and you build fandom. The way Nick just described, you build it over many, many years. And I think the playbook people are using now is one of a few things. One that's very popular is keep supply really restricted, but somehow generate more demand is very, very hard. And it's only capable for very, very big altruistic collections. I think Punks is the one that satisfies that. And then you've got other people who've got huge Web2 followings, right? Whether it's on socials or doing things in different retail placements, stuff like this, that are big, but there's no there's not even a 0.0001% conversion there. It's zero, flat, zero. It's not approaching. It's completely zero, converting from Instagram into purchasing an NFT at any price that's big. So what we want to do that's controversial is build a whole line of NFT collections that goes across from the originals that are like limited, that are the first edition. They are limited. We see that on chain, which is why NFTs are so great for this. All the way through now we're doing the Popkins, which 25,000 is more than 10,000, which is, it's bigger than what we're used to. But you're not comping to old NFT collections, many of which are not successful. You're comping to like, the Rolex watches, and you're comping to, sneakers, and you're comping to Pokemon. Like you need to have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of units. Forget the Labubu. Hundreds of thousands. Yeah, because Labubu is not a good example. Labubu has not stood the test of time. It just emerged
10 years ago. They started 10 years ago.
Yeah, but the sample size of time for which it's good, which has been successful, is like 3 months, if that. I'm saying Pokemon and sneaker collecting and sports memorabilia.
The demand curve has gone up. The demand curve has gone up. Yeah.
Yes.
Let me ask you then. What's something that Clayno is still trying to prove to the world?
to the world.
Yeah.
I think on the NFT side, it's the strategy I just described being a functionally working strategy, which I'm very confident in. And I think on the more traditional side, it's incubating IP, social media first, community first, building in an inverted way from a marketing perspective, being open on the marketing side. Like, this is one of the things that big studios don't get, I think, is that, having one great trailer doesn't work, because now social media is the place where people find things, and it's 24/7. It's all the time. So you need to have like active social media participation throughout the day, every day. You can't have one trailer, even if you cut it 10,000 times and spread it across 2 weeks, it's not going to work. It's got to be, and because of that, you have to have authentic, constant marketing. And I think this is where, on the traditional side, we're doing a very good job. And that will be how we, prove those people wrong as well.
Nick, what are you trying to prove to the rest of the world still? Nick, and like you gotta enjoy Nick's energy, because Nick will go on like spaces and tweeting barrages where like he's constantly just shoving Clay down people's throats, and you gotta respect it. You do have to respect it. Like Nick's like, we know that that Clayno's here, but like you really need to know more now. Like Nick, I respect the approach that you take on Twitter and like just social media in general.
It's my baby. Both but both the brand and the staff, right? So it's kind of, there's definitely a responsibility to make sure that this works for this crazy idea that we had years ago, and it also works for the people that are here working on Claynos, and it matters for their livelihoods, but it also matters for the community and the collectors as well, right? Like, the responsibility is to make this the biggest thing that you can. What's the question though?
The question was, what are you still trying to prove to the world from like your personal perspective of Clayno working with the team?
From Claynos, what am I trying to prove to the world? I think in Web3 we've really started to prove it, but to the world that NFTs and digital collectibles are definitely a future meta and a big part of how companies will be operating. It can fix so many things, including issues with retail and consumer stats and all that kind of stuff, but also kind of flip the narrative on having something in it for consumers aside from just consumption, right? You can create experiences, all that kind of stuff. So I think what we want to prove is that NFT projects are going to spawn some of the next great franchises. I really believe that we are on our way to doing that for Claynos. And within the next 5 years, that'll be pretty standard. The same way Netflix, when they decided to make movies, everyone was like, what? Like, that's fucking weird. Like, how dare Netflix make movies? And now they're the studio. Like, they've changed the whole industry.
Yep.
Streaming came along, everything got flipped on its ass. And I really believe that a few brands like ourselves will change the meta for how you incubate entertainment brands. And it's just going to be obvious, because it's very hard to incubate a new brand and a new product in the real world. But we're already raising a lot of eyebrows, because most of the questions we get in Web2 is like, oh my God, one, the product is awesome, but how did you guys pull this off? Like, we get that question all the time, but because the speed at which we've done it and the fact that we've already got a diehard audience and are able to monetize so early in our development cycle is a big, big deal for, for anyone working in the entertainment space and the studio space and in toys and product and all that kind of stuff.
You guys had a historical mint on Solana back then. You also have a historical mint based off of mint mechanics that's happening in 2 days, literally 2 days. And Will has played a massive part as to why I believe that why they're historic. Will, let's touch upon what makes them historic, and then what was historic about the Solana collection. I think it was a couple years ago.
I think, this collection, what's the most unique about is the whole user experience for the mint. It's not your traditional mint. I think what's really unique about this mint and what makes it like so special is the user experience for people minting it is far from your traditional mint. We're really trying to create an experience. We've all known that Claynosaurz brought the booster pack back with events and all that kind of stuff. So it was in a way to bring that back in a digital way, and for people to rip as much packs as they wanted, and then have that excitement to try to get that Popkin and other rewards that's part of the booster pack. So I think, yeah, I would say what's really unique about that is the user experience. And again, all does connect to the achievement system and the central hub we're building within the Claynosaurz ecosystem. And I mean, I'm biased, but the collection on itself is pretty good, pretty dope.
I do agree. We'll look at we'll kind of throughout the interview, we'll kind of go look at some of the random questions that the community asked under Andrew's post. Nick, your looks buddy Sebastian said, when toys in stores, how long does it take to get things like Claynosaurz pens, pencils, mouse pads? I don't know, just lots of stuff that kids and adults will dig into stores.
So I see Andrew's face smiling.
I feel like
Yeah,
go
because Andrew deals a lot with those logistics, but on the art side of things, usually and Will's been involved with this, and Dan Jervis and all the guys. Usually, what happens is there's a process of designing the product. If we're doing it in house, right? So we design the product, we coordinate with either directly with the factory or with some sort of middleman that is speaking to the factories, and then we get a prototype, and then the prototype usually we'll get a bunch of pictures back. We give a ton of notes on those pictures. And once we approve it, they'll send over an actual physical prototype to the office or to whomever. We look at it and we either approve it or give a few more kind of last minute notes. That's a process that can take a while. It could take a couple weeks, a couple months. It really depends on what you're building and how easy it is to build, how good it looks, all that kind of stuff. With clothing, it can be really hard because you're testing like different materials and different sizing. And then you got to distribute the whole thing, and you got to figure out how you're going to distribute it, where, all that kind of stuff. If it's on shelves, it's a whole other story. But the point is, this stuff often takes a lot of time. And sometimes the questions we're asking ourselves is that product the right one to release first? What does it mean for the brand? Is it a good kind of like billboard type event? And so many times I have holders like, why can't you just make like a t-shirt for an event? Or why can't, and we could, if it was like something where we just like screen print it really fast, or like, oh, could you make like an extra like vinyl for an event, right? But the process is oftentimes so long, and there's so many people that are involved in making those things happen, that I think people that don't have the visibility might not kind of realize. But the short answer on kids products, Andrew just came back from the licensing show, so he probably has more color, but it's something we're really looking at. We definitely want to do things like coloring books. We think of companies like Crayola as like perfect partners down the line. Like that would be, for me anyways, that'd be ideal. But we think about kids products like all the time.
Yeah, I'm only going to chime in because I was at Licensing Expo with Blake, our head of marketing, who actually does take care of more of the logistics and sort of licensing and merchandising opportunities than I do. But of course, I dip my toes in everywhere. And we had a really great set of days there. What week is it today? What day is it today? I don't even know. Whenever I was there a couple of days ago. And like Nick said, it's super complicated, not just on the creative side, but on the licensing side, you've got like different silos of licensing. It's toys, it's merchandise, it's pencils, it's stickers, it's board games. Like there's all kinds of categories. And then there's geographies, because you don't sign these things globally. Usually you sign them North America, maybe US, then Canada, maybe Europe, then maybe you go Spain, Germany. And so you can have like, a lot of permutations of how things go. So we're actually, we met with a few people there, and importantly, folks who kind of like help kind of agency out that service. But there's a bunch of agents that do this that are just like big behemoths. They'll do it for anybody kind of thing. And then there's like some really like Rolls Royce agents that like you have to convince them to take you. And so we met with just literally those guys. And we're very confident that we'll have someone like that on board in the next sort of couple of months, if not sooner. I say a couple of months, hedging my bets. Like I'm going to follow up with Blake and him like today or tomorrow. So hopefully very soon. But no, it's very promising. Just super complicated, super complex.
What did you learn from the brands that you guys met there and interacted with?
Okay, so there's a whole shift. Actually, it's funny because one of the things we learned is that I don't want to put particular names on.
And your side note, every time I ask a question, I have to look at Nick's face, because if I ask a good question, Nick will smile and I'm like, Andrew, Good job, Andrew. Back to you.
Yeah, no,
Nick, you're muted. You're muted. Nick, you're muted. You're muted. Oh, okay.
I think any question where you get me to think makes Nick happy because
yeah,
like,
Nick's smiling. I'm like, it's a fucking KPI.
Number of Nick smiles.
Sometimes I'm just, I'm just a proud best friend, and sometimes I'm like, don't fuck it up, Andrew.
This one is the latter, by the way. No, I'll focus on the biz side because Nick, obviously, just by telling me that, kind of, telepathically cued me to tell me don't touch the creative stuff. But the
you can, it's fine.
No, I'll touch where I know, but I'll say like biz wise, you used to, and you still do, it sounds like, and I will pre-caveat this with, I am learning this business in real time on the licensing and merchandising. We have actual experts on our team who we drive off of. So, don't take what Andrew says as religion. But what I'm noticing is there's a legacy thought, which is like the bifurcation of content and product in such a way where, you've got big studios who are like, I want the content rights. I want to get this on Netflix. I want to put this on my streamer. I want to put this on my BBC or whatever. Like, I want to buy the content. That's where I make my money. I don't care about the product at all. Right. And then the product guys are the licensing people. Right. So then if you're a brand, I'll give you the example that was given to us, like Bluey, right? Bluey sells their content to like, a streamer. I think it's on Disney Plus in the US. Bluey is like the biggest show on the planet right now, right? Like bar none. So they sell that. Disney Plus gets it. Where's the money for Disney Plus? Well, I got Bluey, so people are going to buy my Disney Plus subscriptions, but it's like, it's sort of this like the not tangibly direct thing. The product guys are just selling Bluey stuff. That's direct. Like, I sell 1 million knapsacks, I get back X amount of money. Like, it's very direct. So the bifurcation of those two things, I think, is a huge mistake. I think that some of the people we were talking to that are a little more forward thinking or experienced, the licensing folks that were at Licensing Expo, were like deep in the business. They're like, no, you need to, like, fewer people will bifurcate those things because a lot of the value now is going to lean more on the product side than the content side because content is abundant. Like, content is everywhere. And I think that the content providers that exist today, like the streamers, are not providers of content, or they're curators of content, right? And there's a very different value proposition in how you curate a portfolio of content versus acquire as much content as possible from a monetary perspective. And then how the difference between those two things drives the product side very, very differently, right? So point being that this is my interpretation of where things are going based on what I learned this week. And that's kind of the framing that I'm taking into all these things, is like, there's massive things that are wrong in most places. Like, let me think about what I like and what I don't like and how I would build this system like today. And it's not me being a genius. It's like just taking what people say, interpreting it, and be like, okay, this person said something that makes sense. This person's, and like, just putting the puzzle together. So I think that's the biggest thing I learned.
The best bets in businesses, I think, investments, business, whatever it is, you never have like all the information. You probably have like 50%, 60%, maybe as hedge as much as like 70. But if you're making a bet, you have like 90% of the information. Probably not going to be a great multiplier for you. Based off of what you learned in Vegas, the expo, how much information do you think you have percentage-wise out of 100? And how much do you think the multiples do you think can multiply from Nick's KPI from that point forward? Because obviously you have information, but do you have enough, or do you have enough that you think you can make a massive business bet for the next decade on this?
To answer that question, I think the answer is yes. I have enough information in my mind to make a massive bet on it. Now, I would also say that you're totally right. Like, what makes a good company or a good leader or a good decision maker is someone like, I would tell you this, like, the reason I'm good at what I do is because I can make very good decisions with limited information very quickly. Like, that's the number one skill set I would put into every CEO, right? Like, if I can make good decisions with limited information quickly, you're at a startup. Like, I'm not Bob Iger who has to make 2 decisions a year, right? Like, I have to make 30 decisions a day. So, and like, being able to interpret that stuff quickly is a skill. And so, but I would also say, like, the amount of information you have is kind of arbitrary. Like, information is infinite, I would say. But at a macro level, like what I just described to you is so macro, I don't need to know exactly how these deals work from an economic perspective. I have none of that information. I mean, I have some data points from our own deals and some conversations, but the guy who's got 30 years experience that I don't have has a bunch of micro information that I don't, but you don't, that actually might impede your ability to make good macro level decisions, right? Because you're like in the forest. And I know
you're overexperienced and you lose sight.
You're overexperienced. And my father gave me good advice when I was younger. He's like, having a job, like depending on your learning curve, but his example is if you have a job for 30 years, the same job for 30 years, you don't have 30 years experience. You have 1 year experience 30 times. You're doing the same thing, more or less. And anyone who's had multiple jobs or career shifted or whatever, you'll realize your learning curve is hella steep. You learn 80, 90% of the things you're going to need to know in your entire career in the first probably 6 months to a year. And I would say, like I said, I'm pretty good at acquiring it. I might be even quicker. I don't, this like lacks humility in the way I'm saying this, but I think I learned even quicker than that. And having like going through that stuff and learning very quickly is a lot more experience. So I've done like a lot of different jobs up to where I'm at today. And the person who's got all the experience that you're describing, like the whole information, one is too much, but two lacks all of the other pieces. And like I said before, like Blake takes care of this, but I dip my toes into everything because I want to travel up these learning curves in all parts of our business enough that I can get the great macro view to make good decisions. So like Will tell you, I've spent time with Will understanding rendering. Now, I could never in a million years even begin to do what Will does, like not at all. But at a macro level, I kind of get the cost benefit, the different technologies. When I first joined here with, and it was Nick, I was like, Nick, like at least give me a back. What is that? Explain the process of animation. He sat down, gave me 2 hours of his time, well, many more hours, but like, I remember it for one, explained all the processes, right? Okay, now at a macro level, I understand. So, but I can't do what Nick does. I don't want to get there. Like, I don't need to be the operator. I need to understand the macro level. So to get back to the question, I know less, but that's more powerful because I know less about a lot more things than the guy who knows a lot about one thing. And my macro level understanding is far more superior, not because I spent only enough time on that product, but because I actively look around the whole thing on purpose, which very few people do.
He's very objective, or he has the ability to be.
Nick, do you want to
that one?
No. I think what Andrew is saying is head on, and I think he has an ability that a lot of us don't have to take a lot of tough decisions. And always, like a lot of us, like when we're in the trenches, like we get tunnel vision. Like it's really easy to get tunnel vision on like what does this look like in the next 2 weeks. And Andrew's very good at looking at like, well, okay, look, the next 2 weeks are super important, but what does this look like in a year if you pull this move, and all that kind of stuff. And also, some of us care about certain things that we feel are so important. Every department does, right? Whether it's marketing, whether it's product, whether it's the creatives on the animation side. And it's like, dude, if like this, like what this character is doing, and if like the finger is like not perfect, like should we release this? And you got to make sure that some people are not tunnel visioned to kind of make sure to make sure that we do, not just release product in a timely fashion, but do the right moves as well. Cause we're not so like focused on details that might actually in the big picture not matter.
I want to ask one more question about the Vegas thing, and then we can pivot to the mint that's happening in literally 2 days and some other details.
You got to get Andrew to talk about to Gaetano and Simon and Fred and those guys a little bit.
Andrew.
Oh, is that? Why?
That's your cue. That's your cue.
No. Why don't we finish the Vegas part?
During the alley-oop.
Okay, we can. Okay,
we'll
I got one more question. We can probably transition this about the Vegas thing. Andrew, the Innovators.
It's related.
Dilemma.
It's related.
You've heard about the Innovators dilemma, right?
The Pioneer. Is this the Pioneer Trail? Yeah.
What is? Yeah. I've read about it before, and it's one of those things where I read it, I have to Google it every time. It doesn't resonate with me at all. I couldn't tell you what it is. There's so many things like this. People love, I don't know what this is, and like virtue signaling crap in the 21st century, where people are like, I'm not going to call the thing. And because I don't understand it, what I'll rather do is use acronyms and funny lingo so everyone else thinks I'm smart, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. Like, now, I'll tell you straight up, I don't actually understand what that is. Okay. But if you tell it to me, I'll dismantle or I'll explain what my thought is on it.
So the Innovator's dilemma is like a set of beliefs that like worked before. It's great to meet you. I don't know what the fuck she's doing. That worked before that don't work now. Does that make sense? Like I'll give you an example. Like BlackBerry is one of the Innovator's dilemma. Like nobody wanted to get off of the buttons. People are obsessed with the buttons. They didn't think the screen of the Apple iPhone was going to work. right? Like they didn't
Yeah,
think it was going to work. And obviously what happened, it fucking worked, right? So that was
Yeah.
kind of the innovator's dilemma of BlackBerry. They didn't think it was going to work, but it,
Okay.
you know, and like it did.
Okay, so I guess the dilemma is like, you know, do you push the ball far forward this much?
Yes.
I'll
At
tell you,
this
there's-
time, at this time.
At this time, right? Because I think sometimes you're right. Sometimes at the macro level, you're like, I can see the future,
Yeah.
but like timing is everything. Like I come finance, like a trade is only a good trade if the timing's right. If the timing's off, it's a bad trade. So no, that resonates. One of the things that comes to mind, especially with the example you gave, is if you've read this Steve Jobs biography by Walter Isaacson.
Yeah.
Steve Jobs like famously said, like they're asking him like, have you done any like product market fit like testing or whatever for this thing, whether it was the iPod or the iPhone, I forget. And his response is no. He's like, the market doesn't know what they want. Like I know I'm going to reinvent the future, and to reinvent the future, I'm not asking people what they think they want. I hate to envision it and build it, which is like a leap of faith in the direction you're describing. It's like you have to really believe it that it's going to be awesome. Like people are not going to use the buttons; they're going to use the screens. The irony is, I'm probably one of the few holdouts who kept my BlackBerry for a really long time. Like I was like, the screen makes no sense. So, but I do appreciate that. I think you probably get from like the very rhetoric that I'm before the question came up is like, yeah, there's certain areas where I think the future is very different from where it is today. And my view is there's no dilemma in our decisions for what we're doing because the writing is already on the wall from what I see. And that being like, what is the writing on the wall I'm describing? Like there is a lot more competition in the entertainment business. All the finance guys, you know, that are participating in this, their strategy is, I'll tell you what, the strategy right now is build these big corporations and aggregate everything together. Like big studios, mega studios. This guy acquires this guy. So Amazon, I think, acquired MGM. And then you've got like these guys acquiring these guys. And I'm not going to name deals that are not public, but other people thinking around this way. Aggregate, and economies of scale and size we're going to conquer because then we'll take over all the streaming. We'll have all the content. And there's like this big elephant in the room, which is YouTube, right? It's like, guys, you can't buy YouTube. It's owned by Google. They're not selling it to you. So that, and then it's open to everybody. So the writing's on the wall. The strategy being employed is like an age-old, I don't even want to say financial engineering because that makes it sound smarter than it is. It's financial laziness, to actually use the right terminology, to aggregate these assets that are all depreciating in an effort to try and save the sector or save your business. That's what people are doing. So the writing's on the wall. Those guys aren't doing, not that they're not doing well, but relative to the market, relative to other investment classes or asset classes, they're not doing well. I think as a consumer, you can feel the entertainment is a little bit more, let's say, spastic or harder to find things that you like. There's still great content coming out, but it's all over the place. But I think, and that's actually maybe not a consumer problem. The problem that I think, or the opening that exists today, is the brand part. Like you just don't see good entertainment brands accruing brand value because everybody's all over the place all the time. So no property is the next Star Wars. No property is the next Lord of the Rings. No property is the next Pokemon, right? Like those things grew up in a different time where you didn't have that competition, like the YouTube example, and that's the elephant in the room, I think. Now you do. And so that's where I think we evolve in a very different way. And that's why I say, like, is it an innovator's dilemma? The dilemma to me is super obvious that it's not a dilemma. Like it needs to be done this way. But that would be the one facing us. And do I believe in it or not? I don't know. I mean, I think if you're a good leader and like I said before, you're gathering information and making good choices, those choices in cases like that should be obvious enough to you that you're willing to, like I said before, I have a good rate of decision, like good decision-making rate, like per decision, let's say. But on a big decision like that, I'm not like, oh, like, half information, we're going to build a whole new thing. Like, I'll tell you, like, one of the things that comes up all the time, we're an NFT collection. We're actually the only IP-related NFT collection that doesn't have a token. So token comes up all the time. Token. What are you guys going to do with token? How are you going to do token? I have been living, dreaming, reading, researching, writing. Me and token are married. My wife doesn't know what, my wife thinks I'm with another woman. I'm just thinking about token for 2.5 years. So like, my point is that because it's a huge, momentous decision, the application of that becomes, it is a dilemma, but it becomes less of a dilemma when you get to the decision because you know how important it is. And that's where we're at today, 2-3 years later of like I said, living, dreaming, thinking about this from the macro perspective, from the micro perspective, from a tech perspective, from a legal perspective, gathering more data points and more information like you described earlier, because the decision is so much more high value. This is like, I think there's a Jeff Bezos quote similar, like it's like the decisions you make that are reversible, just make them quickly, like just go. But when you have an irreversible decision, like you can walk through the door one way and you can't come back, that's the decision where you really need to like count like all your eggs, do all the work, do all the due diligence, because there's no coming back. And it's a momentous decision, right? So that's what we're doing for like Token is the example that comes to mind most prevalently. And yeah, it's there, it's coming, it's working on it, but it takes time to do it properly.
Nick wants to alley-oop to the names you mentioned earlier.
Well, I was just gonna go back just to the subject.
Yeah.
That was a long version of saying, for me, like I do think about it a lot, and I know what you're talking about. It's like the way I see is like the advantages of being first are often, it's not always the case, but they're often outweighed by the disadvantages. There's a lot of risk that happens in being first, and something especially for novel ideas. Good thing about creators is we love the novel. We love to try things, and I think that our brains work in such a way that we take risks and bets on things that to most people through their experience might sound crazy, but that's what you need to change things. Although we're very conscious about like Andrew says, it's like, yes, of course, like you got to make sure that what you're building is practical, and you gotta also not be overconfident because of confirmation bias. It's really easy in the space for everybody to say you're the best thing in the world, and then you zoom out and you look at yourself and look at, well, in Web3, I know we're hot shit, and I know that what we're doing it has the potential to change an industry, but what does this look like to Web2 right now? How do we compare ourselves with what people are doing, and how do we compare ourselves, or how do we head in a direction that we think is actually going to be something that is solving a lot of problems in the next 2 or 3 years, not solving problems like in the now or just the now? And I think, again, the BlackBerry story makes a lot of sense to me. But yeah, so I think I just wanted Andrew to talk a little bit about, because he was at a licensing expo, but he was there. He and Blake were there with Simon, one of our new advisors, and I know they get a lot of advice from Gaetano, but something that I think a lot of maybe new holders don't know. We care so much about this company, and we're also very self-aware about things we might not know. And oftentimes, if we don't know something, we make sure that we've got backup, and that we have a lot of advisors. Andrew likes to call them gray hair advisors, but it doesn't mean they're old or anything. But we take advice, and we listen, and we make sure that we do everything we can to know or have confidence that we're doing the right moves, but also surround ourselves with people that believe in our product and can put us in the right rooms.
Yeah, I think I didn't realize the advisors was the reason you wanted to go from Vegas, but it's a good point because we met with one of them there. I was like, how are we getting from Vegas to advisors before? I'm like, but now I understand Nick's thinking. I don't call them gray-haired advisors. I call we're adding gray hair to the team, but it's kind of going back
to the expression.
But no, they are older,
Experienced.
and that's the point, is that they're experienced. And Andrew, like again, we're talking about information gathering. Like,
Yeah.
I said when I talk about lasering, I don't know, and I think there's a lot of things I don't know. And I said about that, like on the animation side, on the wheel side, like I don't know a lot of things. But you do know there's going to be a lot of unknown unknowns, right? And that's kind of like a concept that I think everyone knows, but this is an investment concept that we talk about a lot when we manage risk. Like, what are the unknown unknowns? By definition, they're unknowns. You don't know what they are. But if you can make as many unknown unknowns known, then that's a big part of solving for the problems, right? So having advisors, they unveil things like, have you thought about this? You're like, oh, no. Like, why? Of course I haven't, because I haven't done this, right? And I'll say on like the breadth of experience, the guys that we have in our advisorship, especially Simon, who I think did 10 years at Disney, 10 years at Hasbro,
Yep.
each of them as like the head of commercial product, and has a past before that as well, but also worked on many brands, right? Like Winnie the Pooh, Transformers, Mickey Mouse, like I think Trolls, like and so that's like going, like he's done it in different kinds of IP for different people with different approaches. Some are old IPs that are being reemerged. Some are brand new IPs that need to be toyified. Some are different age ranges, right? And he's got a huge plethora of experience and Rolodex that comes with that. And Gaetano I mean, I don't even know which of his experiences to pick because he got so many. But I think
president at Rovio in the Americas.
So that's he was the head of the Americas
Sony at some point or something.
He's got a bunch of them, but head of Angry Birds. He did the Angry Birds movie and North American like rollout.
Small
with
World.
Will Smith, worked with Cristiano Ronaldo. He's done a bunch of cool things, and again, he's got a plethora of experience in like different places in, let's call it, the business, doing different things. And both of those guys are super instrumental in our approach to what we're doing. And we've got another advisor who's more finance oriented, and he did trading, and he worked in different parts of a big bank here in Canada, and he offers a whole bunch of experience. And again, Rolodex in a whole different area. And it's like, you need people like that to zoom out even further, right? Because you spend an hour,
decade conversations.
Well, they got a lot, they know a lot more, but also they're not in the trenches. I hate to say that. Oh my God. You're not in the forest, like the example I gave before.
You're not in the fog of war. Not in the fog of war.
You're not in the fog of war. And so they're like, zoom out. Like, by the way, have you thought about calling that person? I've had conversations with some of these guys before where the solution they give to my problem is so obvious. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, duh. Like, they're like, dude, did you think about calling this person who you know super effing well? You're like, huh. That is like, you're like, oh my God. Like sometimes you need to zoom out for half a second, right? So
yeah. Well, I have a question in terms of the Innovators dilemma for you for the collection. Obviously, every designer, every creator kind of has like their own like intuitive inclination to what they want to design for the collection, how they want to see things play out, how they don't want to see it, what they like of style, what they hate style. Obviously, you being responsible for the majority of the new collection as well as the old collection, you probably have your own way of seeing things. The community has their own way of seeing things, and the rest of your team has their own way of seeing things. How do you battle like your personal preference versus the entire team's preference versus the community's preference, and like how do you take all those things into account and make the best product design possible?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the strength at Clayno is like we do have like amazing creative people like Daniel and Cedric that tackle those questions already at the 2D level. But yeah, obviously we have those conversations constantly with the guys and the whole creative team. And often, yeah, we'll bounce back on each other like what we think is the best, and always the question, because that comes out all the time, is we're building for essentially it's an NFT collection, right? And also we're doing something that other people don't do, is we do a walk cycle and a PFP. So it has to work in both ways. And how can we make those new creature more interesting and appealing to the audience? And those are the questions we ask ourselves. And most of the time, Daniel, which is our creative lead director on the characters, comes out with really, really good, solutions. And then we just, everyone unique involved. And sometimes other people from other department, we just, question them and like ask like, what do you think? What a normal person will think of those creatures? And so, yeah, and I guess there's a lot of dilemmas happening also on the technical sides when you're trying to build a hyper complex collection like the one we're doing for Popkins, but how can we leverage the tech and not, shoot in our foot too early because it's too complex? And so we need to find those smart ways to build varieties and combinations. Like the mutation, that's something that's really truly unique on Popkins that were not existent on the original Claynosaurz. Is there's this technology in 3D that we use. It's called blend chip, and it allows us to use the original models and then kind of like transform it into a different shape without destroying all the department that's involved before that. So like texturing and all that kind of stuff. So we're just thinking, okay, we need more combination, we need more uniqueness, we need more varieties in that collection. How can we do that the smart way? And blend chip was introduced in the conversation. We sat down with all the guys, all the creative guys, and when we started to think about it, was like, that just makes a lot of sense. And so we started to build those mutations. And again, that was a creative decision that was kind of led by the technical issue. So a lot of those kind of dilemmas and yeah, I think also the way we deal with artists in our team, we're always super open to listen to everyone. I always allow my artists to give feedbacks, and if they have good ideas, or if they I also like to kind of manage them in a way that I give them trust, and I know they'll I want them to have creative freedom. So I would also see what they would come up with, and most of the time it worked out really well. Like a lot of those, the legendaries one that we're going to release for Popkins have been, I give them a direction, but they come up with most of the ideas. And that's something also very cool that worked really well on Popkins.
What are you most happy with the Popkins collection?
Oh, I'm a nerd, but it's the technical aspect, like the rendering, like rendering 25K.
Because you posted the automation, you posted not the automation, but you posted the physical copy of the movable copy, whatever you call it, of the rat yesterday on Twitter.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm very, very proud of all the legendaries, or just the collection journal. But legendary, I think they look really nice. We try to include the lore inside to it. Each legendary Popkin have a special environment tied to them, and that could mean many things. But on the technical side, I think the biggest achievement that I'm the most proud of is rendering all these using Unreal. Unreal Engine was a new tool that we introduced with Popkins. The original collection was kind of rendered the traditional way you'll do in the industry. Big render farm, GPU, very costly, very time consuming. But this time we just knew that we couldn't go that way. That would be like, one, first, too expensive, and two, overkill. And what best than using a game engine like Unreal, which is kind of the hot stuff at the moment in the industry. We see a lot of big companies switching to Unreal. So yeah, I think switching to Unreal, leveraging real time rendering was a huge game changer for us, and I think pretty proud of that.
Yeah, it's great tech.
If I can, about the Innovators dilemma, as far as like a mint's concerned, and I guess my perspective is going to be like really macro here, but Will talked about the complexity, and we ask ourselves like, hey, we want to push the envelope. Is the space ready for it? Does it even matter if they're ready for it? It's already been like 5 years. Mints always look the exact same. It's always like until someone pushes the needle forward, it's just not going to change. And oftentimes that has to do with just like low effort or people being risk averse. Like, hey, it's easy to just make a classic NFT collection, mint it, figure the shit out later. But that's not what we do. And I think we build our own lanes. And then on the creative side of things, I guess where my job's difficult is kind of like, you want to let the creators do exactly like what's in their, what they are thinking of, and what's in their brains, and what they think will be super appealing. And I would say that we like 85% of that remains true, but the other 15% is an exercise of what do we think people actually want? Like, what are the colors we know pop in the space? What are certain SKUs that we know that we just have to do? Like everybody loves like a golden collectible. Like we can't not do that. Everybody loves the clean ones or the over complex ones, that kind of stuff. And then from like a tech POV, it's kind of like tech and distribution actually is like, is the space ready for 25,000 units? And if you look at what it takes to make a healthy collector's ecosystem, you need your secondary collections, if they're not capsule collections, to be substantially bigger than the Genesis collections. It's just the way it goes. And we really think that the space is going to head there from like a collector's POV. And then on technology, it's kind of like, how much time do we have? We're so busy working on the Claynosaurz side of things. We've got the TV show, the video game, the community management, the IRL events, the content that we output every damn week on Instagram. So we're managing that, and we're about to build a massive collection that is so difficult to build. And we're asking ourselves all sorts of questions. Do we take this opportunity to revamp our entire pipeline? Because the pipeline that we currently have is used for the other half of everything we do, which is on the Claynosaurz side, the content, all the other things. And do we just kind of like use the Popkins approach to finally dig deep into Unreal tech so that everything moving forward we can do in real time? Do we kind of use that as an opportunity to test new tools and just new ways of doing things? So these are the things that I think, on my end, it definitely presents an innovator's dilemma. But the answer almost every time with Claynosaurz is, dude, we make our own lane. Like it doesn't matter what the meta is. We've never chased metas, and we're very confident in the products that we build, and we're confident in our ability to pull people in, whether that's through storytelling, through just good shit only, and through belief of what the mission of the team is.
Really high level. Yeah, Andrew.
Wait a second. So, okay. I don't know. You guys are going to cut this and fix it up a lot. But like keep that in. No, I'm just joking. So I was reading about Innovators Dilemma on the side here while you guys were talking. And I'm realizing like, I can't stand not knowing. No. So no, but I realize now that I'm a little daft, but the Innovators Dilemma that you're describing would be the one faced by the people that were innovating again. So like we're a new company, relatively speaking, right?
Yes.
Disney is 100 years old. And I only reason I track it back a little bit is because it is them who has the Innovators Dilemma. And I genuinely don't think that those companies are stupid. I presented an option before where it's like financial laziness, like I said. There's a degree of laziness in it for sure, but there's layers of bureaucracy and rigidity in that system that even if you know what the right thing to do is, make it impossible for you to do it. And so I do think that like the big studios of this world that produce great content, like Disney, they or Warner Brothers, whatever. I don't want to like take one or two, but like they know what the answer is, but their bureaucracy and their size and the way their organization is set out is too big, I think, to actually adapt to it. Right. So like if you had the Disney resources, let's say you have to spend, I don't know what I'm not a Disney financial analyst, but let's say you spend billions of dollars per year on your stuff. If you were going to spend that, and let's say half of that is, let's say you're going to $1 billion on original content a year, rather than doing 2-3 movies with that money, which is like marketing content, whatever, the way to do it would be to actually probably spend like $500,000 on each. But I can't even do the math on the amount of money they have. How many things you'd be pursuing at once? You would need to be pursuing tens of thousands of IPs all at one time, maybe 100,000. I can't do the math. Like you'd be pursuing so many at one time, and that would be the way to spend that money, right? Like you would want to test earlier, try and see where the fandom exists and build it out with a more, like we said, community-centric, creator-centric, like inclusive model. They haven't got the teams to do that, right? So, and deploying that many projects is not feasible. The only thing that Disney could possibly do with a big budget like that is distribute the capital, right? Send it back to shareholders, buy back shares, do mega projects that they're used to doing, $100 million, throw money at marketing, or like, they launched streaming, Disney Plus. That's going to solve everything. Turns out you can launch the best streaming service in the whole world as measured by number of users and still doesn't solve the problem. So because I don't know if I'd be able to tell you that before, but like they need to do these mega projects. That system is not built for thousands or tens of thousands of micro projects. So to scale back to that Innovators Dilemma, I don't think there's a dilemma. I don't think they're stupid. They probably know that the answer is something of the degree I just described, but the organizational and bureaucratic barriers to do that are going to be so hard to overcome. And you're rebuilding from square one. It's very, very difficult, I think.
Next time I'll be mindful. I ask a philosophical question. We've been on the dilemma of it. The dilemma for the past hour.
Just don't ask Andrew fucking philosophical
dilemma.
existential questions.
We gotta get to this mint, and then I have another philosophical question that's gonna probably wrap up the rest of the podcast.
I have past 3:00, by the way, so I'm not a hard stop in half an hour.
Okay.
And you can cut everything out if you want.
No, we're gonna leave this in. We are absolutely leaving this in. This is good content. We're leaving it in.
We just gotta talk about other things,
Yeah.
By the way, a book you definitely should read is Adam Grant's Originals.
Do I have that?
And
John's
it's fucking great. It's great. It's basically that, but it's really about pioneering and difficulties there. But yeah.
Oh, Andrew, you're gonna like this. Leon recommended I get this, so I bought this. I had not fucking read it yet, but like off topic.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
You're gonna read the first chapter of that, and you'll know more about cigars than I do.
I didn't even
shout
see
out Leon
Leon.
for the recommendation of the
Yeah.
cigar book. So here
I was supposed to have a cigar with him in Dubai, and I didn't.
Yeah,
we
I
just
recommended me
didn't
that
have time
book.
to
So
meet up.
Leon, shout out the book. I haven't read it yet, but it's been fucking 3 weeks, but we got it though anyways. Mint is in 2 days. We got to bring this up, guys. High level, what's everything people should know about the mint? I heard there's a whitelist.
There's no whitelist.
Okay.
You can max port into this mint. and okay, so let's go A to Z here. So it is a gacha system or a booster pack mint. We wanted to kind of flip minting on its ass and do like a whole gamified experience. And so it's not just you trying to chase and find the characters. You're actually doing a bunch of side quests throughout just the fact that you are buying these blind boxes or these booster packs. And so some booster packs contain Popkins, which are our new companions and expansion collection, and some booster packs don't. The booster packs that don't contain Popkins, you're going to get refunded on. So it doesn't matter how many packs you buy, the ones that won't contain one of the 25,000 companions, you get a refund. But within those packs, there's a slew of other things that you can get that you keep. You're going to chase these things called escape cards, which are extra collectibles that when combined create super achievements for our achievement system. They're soulbound collectibles, so they're fun to collect, and this will be the only time you can ever find them. And the way in which you collect is it has other achievements and all that kind of stuff. Then there's pity points. So at random, booster packs can contain certain pity points, and the top 50 holders of pity points in a leaderboard will get a free Clayno. So it's kind of like a fun side quest, and there's 50 Claynos to give away for this mint. And then there's other things like digital eggs. Those will port into the Game Loft game. Keep in mind that every single one of our digital assets in our digital collectibles ecosystem, can eventually be rewarded in obvious ways for Web3 collectors. What am I missing inside the booster packs? Are those all the rewards, or are there more stuff?
Pity points, eggs, escape cards.
Yeah, cool.
And Popkins, obviously.
Cool. And then the Popkins, of course, there's going to be rares. We're doing some fun collectible things right now, like misprints and a slew of other things. The pack opening system looks incredible. Make sure to turn your sound on. If you're buying a lot of packs, you'll have a burst mode if you don't want to crack open every pack like one by one. What I suggest you do, because it's fun, you will be able to list packs on secondary markets, but only the packs that contain Popkins. The ones that are going to be empty, they get soulbound so that you can get your refund, and so that you can't list empty packs on secondary markets. And that's kind of it. For the holders, they have specific allocations. The ones that are class selected, they got free guaranteed packs. And for the ones that weren't class selected, they got free mystery packs. So there's no guarantee there's a Popkin, but you still get a free $200 pack.
Nick,
simplify.
Drew, go.
I would say, because you joked about the whitelist and then Nick didn't address the whitelist. Everybody could participate in the public sale. Everybody right now who is getting these packs that are given away, none of those guarantee you win a Popkin. None of them guarantee you win a Popkin. It's a chance at winning a Popkin. That's it. So if you've got one, don't sit on your laurels and think, oh, I'm getting a Popkin. You might open it and not get a Popkin. So the best chance of getting a Popkin is going there, purchasing whatever you want. I don't want to tell people what to do, but purchasing the public sale and acquire as many packs as you can to the end of getting that Popkin. And if you don't win, you'll get your money back. So I think that's a big, big point. The only caveat is that the only place that exists where we've given away already guaranteed packs that will have a Popkin in it is for the holders of Claynosaurz that are already class selected. Not as of now, but we've turned off class selection now, so you can't do it anymore for this exact reason. So those folks will get a guaranteed one already. Everything else is like a mystery pack. You don't know if you're going to get one or not. So don't sit on your laurels. Everyone can participate. If you've got one already as a consequence of a giveaway, you've only got a shot at it. You haven't got the thing. We encourage you to participate. That's it.
We also mentioned yesterday in the spaces, and like John, throw this up when this goes live. Obviously, that we did a space yesterday. All the Popkins mint details are in the space. You'll find that on the Clayno account. We'll even attach this in the podcast recording on the footnotes. We went over like various things, Nick, like the chase packs, chase cards, chase items, new features. Let's get into all that stuff that people should be keeping an eye for when collecting, when breaking packs, when kind of going insane.
Did you ask me a question? I was
Yeah,
typing.
yeah,
So
it's yours.
okay, ask it again. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Yesterday, John, leave that in, by the way. Yesterday, we spoke about the chase packs, the chase cards, and the chase items during the mint space. Can we unpack that a little bit more on the pod?
They're gonna be super cool. They're gonna be super obvious.
Yeah, let's give it to Will. Nick, go on mute.
I'm sorry. There's a fire I'm burning out right now, and I'll give you one more shot. And
Nick,
Nick,
did you have coffee today or no? Did you have some
I
coffee
did have
today?
coffee. It's
Have
just
some
there's
more.
fucking. It's an important one, but I'm
Let Will
listening.
do it. Will is better
Will
placed
can
to
do it.
answer it anyway.
Okay, cool.
No, so yeah, there are definitely chasers in the collections. I mean, there are one that are like super obvious, different animation, different looks, different backgrounds, and even in the booster pack experience, they're gonna have a different experience. They're gonna pull out a card that's gonna look different. So we're gonna make it super obvious. Again, the whole point is you get that dopamine hit when you open that pack and you get a rare run. So that's going to be pretty cool. So I mean, if people want to stream, I encourage them to stream because that's going to be cool to have them recorded. There will be other chasers. I think like those are more like regular ones, like the rare skins and stuff like that. There are some secret trade. I don't like to call it secret trade. It's just like a happy kind of accident that looks really nice. It's the same kind of lore that happened with the Crimson Clan, the Red League gang. Where like it wasn't designed on purpose to have those Red League gang, but the community just kind of like appropriated and then took it and made something very cool out of it. And I do think we're gonna see some of these again in Popkins. There are some skins that had some unique traits that shows up only in certain cases. So yeah.
Thank you, Will.
You're welcome.
I want to get to the achievement system a little bit after, but Andrew, I have a question I've been meaning to ask you. How much closer are you guys to getting acquired by Disney or acquiring Disney?
Hey, I maintain. Actually, this is now a good forum to ask that because I gave you a little more color on my thinking around Disney.
Good.
It's not that they can't. It's not that they don't know what to do. It's that they can't. I think so. That's my point. Disney's Disney, man. They'll continue being big and creating some of the greatest entertainment content that exists. And we're just gonna get bigger. So I think, like I said last time, I think we're a little bit bigger, and therefore we're a little bit closer. But it's an ongoing joke that still sounds ridiculous. I hope in 5 years or sooner, it'll be like, dude, how the hell has this joke turned into reality?
Yeah.
Every good joke has a little bit of truth to it. So we'll see.
Yeah. That's what we're going for. Every time we have a public forum, I always ask you that same question, and we're going to keep that going for as long as we can. Well, if we can dive back, or Nick wants to take this if he's all caffeinated up. Can we talk about the achievement system with Claynos and what contributes to the achievement system? Why people should be participating in, and what's on the other end of this?
Yeah, so the achievement system is like we kind of like call it like the glue that ties everything together, or at least like all the major verticals, or important categories that define Claynos. And these are, you can farm essentially like digital badges, and then you have access into a point system based on the way in which you interact like with our brand. So for collectors, that means like how you collect different combinations of collecting different dinos and different traits and all that kind of stuff. But there's also going to be a vertical that's for creators. So user generated content. People are going to get rewarded for that. And then, of course, the gaming ecosystem. So all the kind of like achievements that you'd get inside of the games that we build, because they're on chain, they can all tie into our achievement system. And the purpose of this is to create like a universal truth where all of the fans can kind of have a loyalty system. They can get extra collectibles through that system. Of course, if a token ever happens, there's definitely implications there through that system. It will also include staking. So that's where you're going to be able to stake your Claynos and your Popkins when we open the gates for Popkins as well. And yeah, we basically want a place where collectors can be rewarded for all the things that they're doing, for fans to also get rewarded. Even, consider like all the opportunities here, like even the way that you're buying products, so the way that you're buying plushies, because the plushies have a digital attached to them that can find its way into the achievement system. When you're attending an event, you can get an NFT badge, and that badge is an achievement in itself. And for us, it also lets us segment and identify our audience. So for example, we can say, hey, anybody that has 5 of the 10 achievements we've had this year that are for attending an event have access to something special, or can get a special airdrop, or whatever it is. Like, we can do that by actually rewarding those badges.
And there will be a retroactive reward system for this mint, yeah?
Yeah, so because Popkins is not going to be insta integrated after, like, right after the mint out happens, we need a little bit of time, but all of the badges and achievements can be awarded retroactively. And we've done that before for Claynosaurz. So it's like, we had achievements like, oh, you never listed, you're an original minter. All these kinds of things are currently in our achievement system for the OG Claynosaurz. So we'll definitely do the same with Popkins. I know Andrew has a list of achievements he's sitting on. I don't know if you can talk about them here, but
I can talk about a few.
We'll post about them on Twitter like today or tomorrow.
A podcast without a leak is not a podcast. We all know.
Yeah,
that.
what the hell, Nick? The chief leak officer demoted.
Yeah,
I'm
Nick,
taking
come on,
over the
dude.
position. No, I think Nick's right. It's good to post them as well. And he's only hesitating because there's like some like, oh, are we sure we're going to do that? But there's some that are so obvious that I think we could just talk about them now. If I screw up, you'll cut it. I love podcasts. So much better than Spaces. You can just cut this thing, right? So let me explain our financial numbers. So the ones that are obvious are like, okay, if you have pity points, who's got the most pity points, pity point winners. Obviously, there's a pity point leaderboard, and you'll get an OG Clayno if you're on the top 50. But just acquiring those points in general will probably have different tiers of achievement. So 100, 200, 500, and so on. Maybe it starts at 25 or 50, right? So the more pity points you get, you might get ever more badges. Then your placement on the pity board, if you're number 1, that I think there's a nice, easy achievement. Biggest loser is like a pretty funny one, right? One that I like is for the rat packs is like, if you crack open 5, 10 rat packs or whatever the number is, again, rewards for that. Cracking packs and catching Popkins, rewards for catching, 5, 10, 25, 50 Popkins would exist. So those are like the very simple ones. Cracking one of each pack, is another one. The most obvious of all that I've sort of skipped over, which I think everyone should know by now, is collecting the escape cards. They're there to be collected. They're soul bound, so collecting them for achievements is really the reason you would do it. The escape cards have different rarities. So there's common, uncommon, rare, it's hard to get them all. And so achievements for all those things make a lot of sense. And I think and it goes back to what Nick said. The achievement system today is collector centric. It's meant to measure all the fan contributions that make a brand what it is. And to us, the mint is like, it's that like you waited overnight at Best Buy to get the first PS2, right? I aged myself considerably just now, but you know what I mean, right? So that moment, it's not that you have a PS2. It's not that you got one eventually. It's that you waited and you participated on that day that makes you a real fan, or makes you more so of a fan. It's a measure of that. So participating in the mint, it's a one-time occurrence to get these achievements, and it'll never be there again. And I think it's a cool way of measuring fandom, much like Nick described in all the other areas.
And I assume like you guys will be contributing content too from the timeline if that's possible through API and all that stuff. If we can do it, we'll do it. Pretty much.
I think that's an area where 100% ideologically agree. Refrain from promising because of technological barriers. But that will eventually, yes. If we can retro that all the way back to the day we minted and before that for 2022, even then we would do it, right?
Yeah.
So there's just a function of tech there.
Yeah, and we're looking at things like, like comment 5 times on a YouTube video on 5 different YouTube videos. You get a badge for that. so forth.
Andrew, I have another question that I think you're gonna enjoy. Another philosophical one. Shift the gears a bit. What do you think will be remembered by the history books but studied by future generations?
In our business or in general? Because
in general.
Oh, dude,
take from business or from in general, but open-ended question. However you want to tackle this, you can tackle it that way.
Well, I think oh my god, dude!
Jerry's Guns and Steel or whatever.
The way I'm going to answer this question is my honest.
Do you want me to ask it again? Do you want me to ask it again? Okay.
Well, I have to answer again. I heard the question. I can answer it. If you study economics at all, the acceleration in productivity as a consequence of technology since the Industrial Revolution, but even more so since the age of the internet, or call it the information age, is exceptional. I mean, like, if you look at a chart of GDP per capita over the last 4,000 years, it is an exceptional thing that is absolutely insane. Like, we're in the middle of living it. So when we study history for thousands of years, there is no going back and figuring out there's the Industrial Revolution, which is only 100 years ago now, a few hundred plus years ago. It's not too long ago in the frame of whole history. And now you have this information age, let's call it, which is like the advent of the internet, computer technology, microchips. Now we have AI, robotics, all of that I'm considering one stream of tech. Not because it is, but maybe that's just the way I'm framing it. It is such an incredible time to be alive relative to history that, like, everything we're doing, and if you're going to talk like Web3 in particular, and then consider how long history is and these big moves, and then think that the internet and computing, like at a home level for like a retail population, has only been prevalent for like 2 decades, like 20 years. Like, I didn't have a computer in my room until I was 16, 17 years old, right? Yeah. And I'm not that old. I'm 35, right? It's the beginning of this whole thing. Like, people might sound tired, like, oh, Web 1, Web 2, Web 3. Like, dude, we're so early. It's like, I hate to say that in the way that people say it. I mean that from a really, as an advocate, as a studied historian of economics. That's a bigger title than I actually am. But as a very curious, reader of economics, and having studied this at school and done finance for my whole career and all this stuff, it is actually insane. I just recommend, go look at that chart. GDP per capita, zoom out to 4,000 or 5,000 years, and then consider that that this advent of technology and the confluence of things occurring today, mainly AI, and then how Web3 is a very effective governance system for AI, is incredibly important. One of the barriers of economic growth at an economic level is your judiciary system. The judiciary system of economy is like, how can I enforce my rights over property? How can I make sure things are done fairly, right? And in the real world, or the non-tech world, okay, you buy a property, there's paperwork. The judiciary system's slow, but when you're doing AI stuff, like we were joking about this in the office the other day, like, oh, well, what if the AI steals your IP? Well, the AI, what you're gonna claim 10 million IP breaches per minute? How are you gonna enforce 10 million cases per minute in a court? Like, it makes no sense, right? Now, obviously, I'm being a little funny because there's you put them together, blah blah blah. There's lawyers out there like, he doesn't know how it works. No, I know how it works. I'm just being funny. But the AI marriage with Web3 is so obvious that is a very interesting time to be at the confluence of those things historically, on a timeline of thousands of years, but even on a timeline of a few decades, and more so in the entertainment space, I think, as well, because of all the other things I mentioned earlier. That we're at a point that in history, I think what people will be studying economically and like from a production perspective is this. There was this, there's a notion that like there is no utopia, and I'm not some sort of crazy person here, but when you look at the chart that I'm describing and consider the acceleration of economic productivity across the globe, consider also that, here's another stat, and I might get the numbers a bit wrong, but I think there was like over 50% of the global population was in poverty, I think just in the 1950s or something like that, 1940s. I might be off, maybe 1970s, like not too long ago. If not our lifetime, our parents' lifetime. And today that number is sub 10%. I think it's like 7, 8, 9. It's like way, way lower.
So it's decreased.
but it's not that. This is something that's been tried to be solved over thousands of years. That is now, as a consequence of what I'm describing, that massive increase in productivity has allowed for people, a large population of people, to no longer report. Like, one of the things that is so screwed up about the current framework of the information age is that you get so much information thrown at you, and the information that is most popular is the things that induce fear. Fear is the biggest motivator. If you read Dune, fear is also the soul killer, right? But fear is the headline that hits. And so you read the media and you're like, oh my God, the world is falling apart. Like, if I ask anybody, they would say net negative, right? Everything is fucked. Now, a lot of that is not true. There are things that are bigger, like AI, like nuclear deterrence and things like that in the last decades that are very important, that do add to that sort of fear. But from an actual economic perspective, are more people living well? The answer is 100% yes, by a large magnitude. And we often sit here and think about fear and violence and, immigration, nobody likes each other. And a lot of it is spewing bullshit, right? And so what I think that the productivity pace that we're at, generated by the technical advancements we're making as a population in the world, are immense and often underappreciated because of the flip side of the same coin, which is this abundance of information that kind of sours the issue because people would prefer to be popular than to be right. And there's I'll stop there because the next thing I was going to say.
Was it a good question? Or no? What do you think?
Me and Andrew.
We don't need a podcast. I need an encyclopedia session. We can keep going.
Hang on. I'm going to piggyback and actually talk about this from basically a DGen perspective. It's so funny. I had a conversation with one of our really big collectors and really smart guys is Ollie. And of course he has an ancient, he has so many Claynos. And one of the theses, and we actually have a lot of big whales that think similarly, one of the theses he has is the reason he's collecting so many NFTs, especially in companies he believes will transcend and survive a certain time frame and length, is that the advent of AI will create ungodly access to money for the generation after us. And on top of that, there's going to be it'll just be normal for people to indulge in digital ownership. That'll just be something that's just common. Everybody knows it. It's just so normal to own digitally, the same way it's normal to have your credit card on your phone and to tap it. You don't even think about it. 10 years ago, that was wild, right? And so when you put those two things together, and a lot of people are going to end up with just AI farming money for them, whether it's trader bots, whether it's just productivity tools. Our own staff are now able to code in a way that they wouldn't have been able to 2 years ago, right? And in that ecosystem, how you flex if you exist online, if not for NFTs? That is your Gucci purse, that is your Ferrari in the digital space. That is when all these platforms are token gated pictures and token gated kind of anything that's tied to your profile, so that that whatever someone is putting up is actually an NFT, PFP, but other things too. Dude, NFTs as a flex mechanism, for sure, that's a thing. At least for me, I just, it's so normal for kids today to be flexing their gun skins, but they don't actually own them. And I think that I've seen a lot of kids that are, and they probably shouldn't be trading, but they are, they're probably 14 plus. We had a holder years ago who was 19, and he was sitting on, a little bit under $1 million as a bag. And
that's insane.
And he was treating it like a video game. Charts were a video game to him. But now imagine empowering that youth with AI as well. I really think it's going to be wild, and it's an access to money that I think is really going to be wild, in the next couple of years.
You're muted.
Very nice. Very nice.
I was like, shit, I fucked up.
Yeah, Nick got the mic just dropped, and the rest of us didn't have any responses.
No, but it's
after.
true.
That was kind of
like,
it.
Think about it. Like, dude, like the NFTs right now, sure, it's like $1,000.
Nick, the only
dude.
thing I'll disagree with you with is that like our behavior within the micro niche is super weird to those outside of it.
Of course,
so like
it
my
is.
friends don't understand why I'm a penguin, why you guys are dinosaurs. Like, they don't understand.
Right now it is. Right now it is. But on Reddit, everybody has PFPs. On Instagram,
I told you that last
PFPs.
podcast. I mentioned that last.
But at one point, the idea that I have to own it, everyone else is owning theirs, and what does it say about me if I don't flex one that I actually own, right? Like that'll be.
It depends the platform though, because there's platform and culture. Because the representation on Instagram of the same users on Twitter is different.
Forget the platform. I'm talking about like society moving in waves, and at some point, something's kind of it's not something until it is. Like
I agree.
Right? Like,
I think you're both right. I think also the one thing you're not considering is that sometimes these changes you're describing are like generational. Like they take a long time.
Yeah, maybe.
And I think like and also it doesn't mean everybody, right? Like you got tons of people on Reddit, you got tons of people on Facebook, you got tons of people who buy into like digital community, let's say. And then the next level is digital identity. And not everyone needs to buy into it, but a large amount of people will, and it will grow significantly, like Nick is saying, and like you're saying, Andrew. Like, I think it takes time, dude. My wife, she browses Instagram, TikTok, she does all that stuff. So she likes the Web 2 stuff, but the idea of like commenting, participating in the community side digitally, she doesn't do that, right? So the digital identity thing is very different. But with the younger and younger generations, it'll come naturally to a larger portion.
But I think that the argument of like it's going to be for a lot of people, but not everybody is true for anything. For example, like art collectors today, it's like I have art at my place, but not everybody does, right?
Yep.
But for me, that understands collecting art and that likes to maybe talk about it with friends or other people that collect art, like it'll be so normal. Like the idea that I can do that digitally as well. And I don't have to worry about like, insurance. I can bring it anywhere I want. I can trade it on a, like distribution is global. I can trade it anywhere I want. That stuff becomes really interesting. And I think for certain people, it's going to make so much sense. It already does, like you say, for a really tight knit group, but at some point it's going to break out.
I have a bit of, interesting question rather. Do you guys remember the BAYC businesses that ran off the IP? Most of them didn't do very well from a monetary standpoint. Yeah, products out there, people are wearing it. So from a presentation of a product standpoint, it did well because there's a living, breathing item you can hold, buy, sell, trade, put on eBay, whatever. From a business standpoint, the goal of business is to what? Make money, right? I don't think they're doing that. I don't think a lot of them are doing that. What's the flaw in that from your guys' perspective? Is it the holders?
Let me go first.
Is it the IP? Is it the fact that these people were business people? They weren't trying to make it a business. What was the greatest flaw? Because like from my knowledge from back then, my perspective, these IPs were going to be huge. Fast forward 1, 2, 3 years, with the exception of a few of them from Snoop Dogg, but already had the distribution. Yeah. They didn't really get super. Didn't really happen.
I'll from an IP perspective, I think the simple answer is it's a mix of everything that you just said. From an IP perspective, very few IPs command that. If I opened up a coffee shop and slapped Bluey on it, maybe that will command some people. And some parents will be curious and they'll start using that coffee shop. And maybe there's a niche where it's like, oh, they can bring the kids and the kids are like happy about it, whatever. Or it's like, it's a point of familiarity. It takes a long time for your brand to get there. And when holders or when people ask about like, well, Pudgies or Bake or even Azuki, it's like, well, we have the IP rights to our characters and whatever. And sometimes the answer is, hey, Web3 does offer that super interesting opportunity. It's something that we do look at. We don't have to be first. But the other part of that coin is so fucking what? Like, what is that character going to do for your business right now if the IP is not already on rails and is not already something it's not just about being globally recognized. It's like I can see the GIFs everywhere, sure, and it makes me smile. But unless I love the characters and unless I'm in a room with like 10 other people and someone says Jurassic Park, I was like, yeah, Jurassic Park. Like I love Jurassic Park. Like I know Jurassic Park. I know the stories, right? Like it needs to be something that people know and love, and it needs to represent something for it to actually pull people in as a sort of billboard event. The other side of the story is, yeah, like people were building businesses left and right, like random coffee cups, things like that. It was like sometimes it was a niche product, so it could be a business decision. Opening up a restaurant is very difficult, by the way.
Yep.
And I think that hasn't been solved in the space, and the assumption that your character that is piggybacking off a brand that is very new and has not found its way yet does not equate to your business that is flexing that character from that brand is going to be successful.
It's tough. It's tough.
Sure, it's tough.
I mean, some of the IP looks cool, man, from like cans to shorts to t-shirts.
Most startups fail. Like,
I know.
And I mean, we are a startup and we think about that all the time. It's like, we got to make sure whatever we do is we protect the brand, but it's not easy. Right. And so now you've got like an influx of startups that are built on the back of another startup. If you think about it.
It's tough.
Yeah.
Transitioning over, guys, we have the game. How much can you discuss about the game plus the TV show? Chief Leak Officer, you're here with us. If there's anything you think you want to let the people know the podcast, man, the mic is yours.
Super stoked. Okay, I'll start with the game, but they're kind of TV show game kind of go hand in hand from announcements perspective. But let's start with the game. So pumped about this. It's getting very close. I think the first beta event, like public beta, is going to start in August. I could be wrong, Andrew, but I think it's August is when holders are going to be able to test this thing and give us all sorts of feedback. The whole thing is built on chain quietly. Most Web2 users would not know, but there's a reason it's built on chain. One of the main reasons is the achievement system. So our whole ecosystem is interconnected in a smart way, and it also future-proofs the product. So all of the the underlying tech, you're essentially like minting NFTs when you get items in that game, and the existing NFT demographic can port their NFTs or mirror versions of it inside the game, kind of like a special access with whatever perks we could throw at them. We're also super pumped about what's happening with the Apple Store and whatever. But so design is I don't know, Will. I would say it's like 90% there. We're still working out kinks in the UX UI, and the PvP system is something that we really want it to be fun. So doing a lot of tests there, but for the most part, we do have a working game. There, he's got it on his phone. There it is. We have a working game. It's pretty awesome. It's very much on brand. So certain things aren't finished, like the map that he was showing, but it's fun, man. It's built. It's the best way I can describe it is like it's an idle RPG game that has a focus on the Tamagotchi / aquarium system that most people really like, because the whole point is to collect more and more dinosaurs and to flex them. And you can share your habitat and all that kind of stuff. But there is also a PvP system, and the point is about.
And Popkins will be in the game, right?
Not in the first release.
Okay.
Because it's already a crazy endeavor to try to release this mobile game and make sure that nothing's broken, because the Popkins are built natively in Unreal, and the game uses Unity technically, but Gameloft is able to use Unreal. But the point I'm trying to make is the models have been optimized, which wasn't the case for the original Claynosaurz. We had to go through a whole optimization process. But the Popkins from a tech POV are ready to go, but it's kind of like too much too soon. Could really hurt us. So right now it's like, let's just focus on having a really good game. You can patch, you can release expansions, all that kind of stuff. Popkins will show up in content. Popkins will show up in the TV show. So the TV show, we're announcing this officially next week. So that'll be Monday. We've got some interviews lined up, and there's going to be a big PR push. It's going to feel great for the team because we've kind of like some of our holders know we're making a TV show. Sometimes we talk about it, but we've always been never like loud and proud about it. Because one, we don't want to ruin the news, but second, there's PR embargoes and there's all that kind of stuff. And I think that what I'm most excited about is one, dude, we're making a fucking TV show. Like it's sick. I'm so stoked. It's going to go straight to European distribution. It's also going to go straight to YouTube in America and elsewhere. And then eventually the streamers. It's built for that stuff. It's going to be our first like huge Web 2 push. We're going to be hosting the headlining event at the NSC Animation Festival. That'll be June 11th. We already have like 40 holders signed up for this, but basically it's going to be an event with 800 people. There's going to be industry executives, all that kind of stuff. And the NSC Festival is a little bit of like our Web 2 coming out party. It's where we do press releases for the show. It's where we invite the who's who in the animation world. That festival is kind of like the Cannes Film Festival. It's where Pixar is going to screen their new movies, or DreamWorks, or those companies. It's where a lot of B2B events happen, and so we're super pumped to be hosting like basically one of the main events there. And we're also doing a lot of cool stuff there. We're going to onboard hopefully upwards of 500 students into our creators ecosystem by giving them free baby T-Rex rigs that they'll be able to animate and put online on socials. And if there's anything that's true about animation students,
very grassroots.
Yeah. If there's anything that's true about animation students, they love free characters that they can animate.
I would love to remind Nick of what the initial question was.
Yeah, I'm
when
going
we
fast.
ended on Annecy party, but I think the question was, are the Popkins going to be in the game?
Well, it was the game. Then there was the Popkins. No, but I did say they're not in the game in the first release. They're built to be able to port pretty seamlessly. But we got to make sure the game's good. Sorry.
D-Rex from Twitter asks, where does the Popkins name come from and why did they choose it?
A few reasons. We had so many, man, we had like a whole bunch of names. We had like Claylings, things like that. And it felt like anything with clay felt too obvious. We wanted something that could hold its own, something that's like fun for kids to say. Kin, it's kind of like, friendship, it's companions. And Pop, I think Pop is such a archetype collector's word. It's
verb,
like
yeah.
Pop, you've got Pop Mart, Pop Vinyl, all that kind of stuff. And you're popping booster packs, right? So I think
That's
all
good.
that played into it, and we wanted to build its own kind of branding language.
And Gorgeous asked something very similar. Are the Popkins going to be plushies as well? I'd love to have my own Popkin that I'm hopefully minting as a plushie for sure.
So I think what we're looking at for Popkins, like we've had early discussions. Again, it depends how the mint goes and time we have after that. But they're perfect, and they've been designed that way. They're perfect for blind boxes, very similar to what Pop Mart does. And they're perfect for the little hang plushies. I think something that to me, anyways, is pretty. It's important because of what it means, historically for these collectibles. But when we released the first Claynosaurz collection, like that was bar none one of the most complex collections ever done on chain. It still holds true today, and the Popkins really honors that tradition, and it is bonkers. Like it is unequivocally, at the time of release, it is going to be the most complex from a technology POV mint hold off on chain across the board. It's not just the way the booster pack system is built. It's really how the 3D assets are built. The amount of trait stacking, of layer stacking, of all that kind of stuff, it is wild. And like Will said, we're rendering enough frames to have to play the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy 3 times over or something crazy like that.
Yeah, 2 times over. Yep.
It's fucking nuts.
Well, I have one more question. The IP incubation. Can we talk about it?
That's probably an Andrew thing. We're gonna make some announcements at Annecy, but
Dude, all right. I like talking about it. I mean, you know what I like about this format is like I can change my mind after and tell you guys to cut it, but I don't think we need to cut it, like, or use it at a later time. But yeah, I think we have a lot of firepower over here at Claynosaurz. We're like 45 people on the team, not counting like third parties that we work with very often. That is a lot of people for one IP. And Clayno is like rocking and rolling. We're doing very, very well there. And we continue to build the team like in other areas that people don't even realize. And a lot of that is this ecosystem idea of how brands will be built for the future, specifically entertainment brands, because that's where our expertise lie. We're not going from, 3D cartoons to sneakers, like, but we'll stay in the entertainment arena, animation first and foremost, but we've built up a set of skills and talent, and actually like internal IP from like a tech perspective, like in Will's department specifically, but other places as well, that empower us to really create this like entertainment accelerator that will bring new brands into the world in this way that we have with Clayno, and use this IP incubation sort of studio to do that. A lot of it is based on like the ideas that we've got and what we told you on the social media first, community first, and so on and so forth. And another big part of it is this like resource allocation problem that I presented to you earlier, which is that entertainment arena does not allocate capital and labor or resources in the right way or in an efficient way. And we think blockchain, we think that early meritocracy and early testing is a better way to do it. And also brings together community, brand ambassadors, and fandom earlier on in the process to create meaningful, long-lasting brands. So we want to apply that to new IPs going forward. And we talked about the achievement system. We talked about how that might reflect fan contribution and how that might translate into a token in the future. That machine, I started, I think a little bit, Nick talked about it a little bit, is meant to, it's built around Clayno, but imagine it's an ever-moving machine that measures fan contributions into different brands. So you could white label it. So now imagine a working machine, that's the tech, that measures fan contributions and allows for brands to be built together with their fans, measuring contribution from this core collector level to these ever more eccentric circles, and where the passive viewer at the end, it might not be a contributor, but is still watching. And there's all these different layers of fandom that are reflected in the system. And this incubator is one that will empower the creatives with those resources, which will come because the machine accurately reflects what they've contributed. And therein lies a very efficient capital allocation and resource allocation platform, which is exactly what crypto is made to do. And underlying that is where a token falls. And so I've maybe elaborated downstream further than I had intended, but it starts with Clayno. It starts with Clayno. Well, people say you're the Pixar of Web3, and I would rebut that. We're not the Pixar of Web3. If Pixar and Kickstarter and like the New York Stock Exchange came together of Web3 for entertainment and brand building, and that's what we're building. Turns out that when you look at our roster of people and you're like, why would someone with 15 years of experience in the financial sector be here? Why would someone who's advised Louis Vuitton, Adidas, Nike, and Apple on their brand strategy, why would they be here? Why do you guys have a marketing guy with 30 years experience? Why do you guys have advisors who used to run the entire commercial division of Disney and Hasbro? Think about that for a second. There's a big, big plan behind this, like much bigger than we actually like to reflect on publicly. So.
That was it. That's a mic drop.
Yep. Nothing further.
That was it. I got one too, but you're
throws it.
Yeah.
I want to add one thing on Popkins that we haven't mentioned at all, actually. And I don't know if we even mentioned it. Yeah, Popkins. No, the Popkin teaser, that's going to be so awesome. Like, I cannot wait for everyone to see it.
When's it dropping?
Tomorrow, I think.
Can we pull it up here? Because this is going after. This podcast will be dropping after.
You haven't seen it, have you?
The teaser. You guys got the music to the colors to the exact correctly. How does that feel, guys? After 3 years of just slugging it, how does that feel? 4 years after slugging it.
Well, it feels amazing, but it still doesn't feel safe, right? We gotta fucking. It's the jeu. Yeah.
Would you say that you're still in survival mode, Nick? Are you guys still in survival mode, or is it more so like you're in a mode of abundance right now?
We're never in a mode of abundance.
No, there's no abundance.
Like, dude,
there's no abundance.
Like, are you kidding me? We are always, me and Andrew will wake up at 4 a.m. like this shit has to work.
Person team,
dude. Like, I don't sleep at night, but the thing is, like, I mean, we really want it to work out.
Okay, let's pause there. What keeps you up at night? What keeps you up at night, Nick?
Fucking Claynosaurz.
Okay.
What keeps me up at night is like it's nothing's guaranteed. Holders, you know, I'm one of the front facing founders, which means I'll deal with a lot of DMs. Some of them can be really shitty. You know, and the reason it affects me is oftentimes because I care, and sometimes the people that might be fighting are really good holders that just have question marks because we're so busy that sometimes the information doesn't come through, and it's like, guys, we're doing so much, right? And I think that yeah, it's what keeps me up at night is like, it has to work. It's not like we're swimming, there's no abundance, we're not swimming in money, far from it. You know, what we do costs a lot. We're now building a TV show, a game, all that kind of stuff. And it's funny, I saw a question being asked in your like podcast comment, and one of it was like, I feel like you guys sometimes might be slowed down by how little money you've made compared to those other big projects. And I'm like, dude, if we had a fraction of the money those projects have made, sometimes we're talking about $80 million, $50 million, and I'm thinking, what the fuck are you doing with that money? Like, we would be kings of the castle, like, bar none. But I think the flip side of that argument is because it hasn't been easy, FTX, everything, you know, in our whole life cycle as a project, we made $7 million in our life cycle in 3 years. Some of the ETH mints were well above $7 million, right? We are not complacent. We are always in survival mode, and we are always like, we have to figure this shit out, and we have to be intelligent, and every move we make matters. Doesn't mean we don't take risks, but it does mean that there's a fire and there's a hunger, and we are anything but complacent. And I think that has been our identity, and that's probably one of the reasons we're so damn good, is because everybody has fire under their ass day in, day out.
Guys, give your final outros, and then we'll wrap this up.
Let's fucking pop.
Guys, pop. No, I think the main message should be,
Pop.
It sounds like a gun, shooting gun.
Like, goddamn. No, I think right now, you know, we talked about a lot of things. So it's like, there's a lot of noise around the whole podcast here. I think there's fun bits, but if you're going to say one thing, it's like Popkins are on Thursday. It's $200. It's on Sui. Experience that I've been telling people is it's like second to none in the NFT world. People are often struggling. How do you onboard into crypto? Like, get a few packs, you get a Popkin, or you get your money back plus other stuff, but also open them with like your friends, your family, anybody who like is maybe a little bit crypto curious or even crypto resistant. Like, it'll be a big step forward for them, because that's what we're doing. We're building like NFT ecosystem here that is for everybody and will scale to millions of people. So I would encourage people to participate with people around them. It's a real retail facing experience that's meant to be fun.
Yeah, no, I think my outro would be just like, I hope the community is gonna love the whole experience and enjoy those Popkins. I think we're bringing something really new to the space, so just excited to see everyone, and hope to see like the same excitement that the team has. So yeah, but so far with the leaks and all, great feedback. So yeah, pumped.
Yeah, I'm stoked. The ecosystem seems to love it. Our collectors seem to be super jazzed up about this and the Sui ecosystem. So, and like I said, man, it's like, it's our biggest ever release. It's the first major expansion since we minted the OGs. So it's really meaningful to us, to the artists, to the company. And I think we're gonna knock it out of the park. And the collection is insane. And the reveal is gonna happen only a couple days into the mint, so no one's gonna have to wait for a reveal. It's gonna be all good.
Guys, we appreciate it. Third episode, third podcast with you guys. Next one's got to be in person at a cigar lounge or something. We can figure that out. How to get
Let's
that.
do that.
Yeah.
Let's do
So
that.
down for that.
Real life podcast, cigars. Just tape it for 3 hours. We can see what we can do.